The story begins with a woman named Marian driving through the quiet forests of Ohio with her young stepson, Elijah. The atmosphere between them feels distant and uncomfortable. Elijah sits quietly, distracted by a phone, while Marian tries to start a conversation. She gently suggests they visit a nearby zoo, hoping to lift his mood, but Elijah immediately shuts the idea down. He says he can't go without his father, who recently passed away. That single response makes everything clear. The grief is still fresh, and the bond between them hasn't fully formed. As they continue driving, Marianne misses a turn because her GPS isn't working. Frustrated, she asks Elijah to check for a map in her purse. While searching, Elijah finds a letter with his name written on it. Curious, he starts to read it, but Marianne quickly snatches it back and refuses to explain. Her reaction is tense and defensive, instantly raising suspicion. Before the moment can settle, something shocking happens. As Marianne reverses the car, the windshield suddenly shatters out of nowhere. Startled, she slams the brakes. At the same time, a loud roaring sound fills the sky. A World War II fighter plane suddenly appears overhead, flying dangerously low before crashing into a nearby creek. The situation feels unreal. Elijah immediately jumps out of the car and runs toward the crash site without thinking. Marianne quickly calls emergency services, then rushes after him. When they reach the wreckage, they see a man trapped inside the cockpit. Marianne struggles to open the canopy. It's jammed, but after forcing it open, the pilot finally climbs out. His name is Theodore Cole. Even in the middle of chaos, Ted refuses to leave without grabbing a photo from inside the cockpit. Elijah helps him retrieve it just seconds before the wreckage catches fire. Once they're safe, Ted thanks them for saving his life. But something about him feels off. He introduces himself as a pilot from the 2nd Squadron and immediately asks if they are British or Dutch. Then he asks what they are doing in Burma. Elijah looks confused and tells him they're in Ohio. Ted doesn't understand. He insists he was just flying in a dogfight over a mountain ridge. But when he looks around and notices a nearby water tower labeled Dayton, something clicks. He remembers growing up nearby. At the same time, the sky begins to change. Dark clouds gather, forming a strange and unnatural storm above them. Soon after, Sheriff Parker arrives and listens to Marianne and Elijah explain what happened. Ted is taken to a hospital in Bradford. While recounting the story, Elijah begins to wonder if Ted might actually be from the past. Marianne doesn't take that idea seriously. At the hospital, things get stranger. Elijah sneaks into Ted's room while Marianne waits outside. Inside, Ted suddenly grabs Elijah's wrist and looks closely at his dog tags. He looks terrified and asks where he is. Elijah asks if he's dangerous, but Ted quickly says he's just a soldier trying to understand what's going on. Ted insists that it's Christmas Eve 1941. Elijah corrects him, saying it's September in the present day. This completely shakes Ted. Before Elijah leaves, Ted gives him a candy bar from his jacket. Elijah notices something odd about it. He's never seen this brand before. Moments later, hospital staff rush in and sedate Ted again. Later, Elijah tells Marianne everything Ted said. At first, she believes Ted is simply confused or mentally unstable. But then, Elijah shows her the candy bar. Marianne realizes something shocking. That brand hasn't existed for over 30 years. Suddenly, the impossible starts to feel real. Without wasting time, Marianne turns the car around and decides to go back. She wants to find someone named Sheriff Simmons, the man Ted mentioned. Meanwhile, back at the crash site, a convoy of government and military vehicles arrives. A man named Agent Kaminsky takes control of the area. He orders everyone to evacuate within 10 kilometers and makes it clear that no one is allowed to speak to Ted. He also reveals something disturbing. They only have 7 hours to send Ted back. Marianne and Elijah arrive at the police station looking for Sheriff Simmons. However, they are told he isn't there. While waiting, Elijah notices an old photograph displayed on the wall. The photo is dated 1938, and standing in it is Ted. This discovery proves that Ted truly is from the past, but Marianne still struggles to fully accept it. At the hospital, Ted regains consciousness. This time, he notices soldiers guarding his room. When a nurse attempts to sedate him again, Ted reacts quickly. He knocks the nurse unconscious, steals his uniform, and escapes. Outside, everything feels unfamiliar to him. Modern cars, technology, and sounds confuse him. When he tries to start a car, he accidentally triggers an alarm, drawing attention to himself. Agent Bowman spots him, but Ted manages to escape by stealing a motorcycle. At the same time, scientists at the crash site begin analyzing the wreckage. Strange tremors shake the ground. One technician suggests that the crash site might actually be some kind of doorway, but Agent Kaminsky ignores this theory. His focus is simple: fix the plane and send Ted back. Meanwhile, Marianne and Elijah stop at a gas station. Elijah is now convinced that Ted has traveled through time. While there, he secretly reads the letter Marianne hid earlier. The truth hits him hard. Marianne was planning to leave him behind with his aunt while she moved to San Diego alone. Feeling betrayed, Elijah confronts her. Marianne explains that she made a promise to his father to do what's best for him. But to Elijah, it feels like abandonment. Before their argument can go further, Ted suddenly appears, crashing nearby on the stolen motorcycle. Elijah sees this as a sign. Ted confirms everything. He recognizes the photo from 1938 and explains that he was on his way home to see his wife, Pauline, before everything happened. With police sirens approaching, Marianne quickly tells him to get into the car. They drive to Ted's old house. Inside, they meet a nurse who explains that Pauline is still alive, but she has moved on and married someone else. Ted looks at the photos of her new life. The realization hits him quietly. Time has moved on without him. Marianne, meanwhile, searches online and finds records confirming that Ted was supposed to die in the crash the day he disappeared. Suddenly, things escalate. The nurse sees a news report claiming Elijah has been kidnapped and calls the police. Within moments, soldiers surround the house. Agent Kaminsky confronts Ted and finally explains everything. Ted has traveled into the future through a time rift, and if he doesn't return, it could cause catastrophic consequences. The ground begins shaking again. Bowman explains that Ted's presence is destabilizing reality itself. With no time left, Elijah helps Ted escape. They jump into Marianne's SUV and flee. After a tense chase, they end up near an old location Ted remembers. It's the place where he last danced with Pauline. Ted admits something painful. He never got the chance to say goodbye. Elijah, still emotional about his own father, tells Ted that he deserves that chance. He believes the rift didn't bring Ted here by accident. Meanwhile, Marianne is captured and taken to a hangar where the government is rebuilding Ted's plane. Kaminsky explains that these rifts have appeared before and caused disasters. Anything that comes through must be returned. Eventually, Ted and Elijah reunite with Marianne. At this point, Ted feels like giving up. Pauline has moved on, and he feels like he no longer belongs anywhere. But Marianne tells him something important. Maybe the rift brought him here for a reason. In the final moments, Ted decides to see Pauline one last time. When he meets her, she immediately recognizes him despite the years that have passed. They share an emotional reunion, filled with memories of a life that was never fully lived. They dance together, just like they once did, and this time, Ted finally says goodbye. With time running out, Ted prepares to return through the rift. Elijah hugs him tightly, not wanting to let go. Ted reassures him that everything will be okay, and encourages Marianne to stay with Elijah, reminding her of the promise she made. That moment changes everything. Marianne realizes what truly matters, and chooses not to leave Elijah behind. Soon after, Ted boards his repaired plane and flies straight into the storm. As the rift closes behind him, the strange disturbances disappear, and everything returns to normal. In the end, Marianne and Elijah continue their journey. this time together. As they drive towards San Diego, their relationship finally begins to heal. Looking up at the sky, Elijah smiles, knowing that some connections can never truly be broken. And with that, friends, this story comes to an end. Tell us in the comments how you liked the explanation. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel.